to organizers and all the participants of this international conference. I am Kateryna Sochka. I have PhD in economics, and I would like to present you the brief results of our scientific article Sustainable Development in Polyethnic Border Regions of Ukraine on the example of Transcarpathia. The official recognition of sustainable development was identified in the report Our Common Future at the United Nations International Conference on Environment and Development. And interpretation of sustainable development suggests to consider growth in a way that meets the current needs without reducing opportunity for upcoming generations to satisfy their needs. And primarily three directions of sustainable development were identified as economic, social, and environmental sustainability. The purpose of this study is to determine the features and identify some obstacles of sustainable development in polyethnic border regions of Ukraine. The methodological basis of research is scientific papers of foreign and Ukrainian researchers on sustainable development topic and some national development programs. And the empirical part of the article is based on the selected results of survey on the perception of regional NGO leaders about peculiarities and basic directions of sustainable growth in polyethnic regions on the example of the Transcarpathian region in Ukraine. The study of approaches of foreign and Ukrainian researchers to the interpretation of sustainable development shows strong trend of expanding this concept from simple preservation of natural assets to a more integrated interpretation. And this approach involves a joint effort of different governmental and civil society institutions, communities, businesses, and households towards the elaboration and execution of such strategic programs for regional development, which would support the balanced progress of economy and social sphere while keeping environmental norms and preservation of natural resources. The region under consideration is located along the western borders of Ukraine and have border with 4 European countries. This region is a typical example of polyethnic region that has been formed historically, and it is characterized by interethnic tolerance due to permanent residence of different nationalities for centuries here. Ethnic groups have different cultural, historical, religious, and household traditions, and this reflects on the methods of personal farming, entrepreneurship, cuisine, home production of food and wine, blacksmithing, forestry, and so on. The peculiarity of this region is extremely low level of its urbanization, dominance of rural population, and negative trends of demographic progress. Modern scientists emphasize the increasing importance of the ethnic factor in social development, as it affects many processes of social life like regional, ethno-national decentralization policy and educational reform. Sustainable development of a polyethnic region is considered as a system of interconnected long-term measures jointly worked out by different levels of governments, businesses, households, NGOs, including national and cultural organizations, research and educational institutions, regional development agencies. And all these long-term objectives are reflected in relevant development strategies of the region. The implementation of these strategies will ensure the improvement of the living standards of population, satisfying spiritual, cultural, educational, religious, and other needs of different ethnic groups, creating a favorable conditions for implementing the entrepreneurial potential of local communities, and attracting investment from outside the region while simultaneously maintaining or improving natural assets of these regions. Figure 1 shows the basic stakeholders and directions of sustainable development in polyethnic border regions, like social, economic, and environmental, including disaster prevention, that are included in relevant regional strategies of sustainable development. The table 1 shows the distribution of answers to the questions about the sustainable development goals for Transcarpathia as a polyethnic region. And here we have the results on the question which sustainable development goals are most appropriate for the development in Transcarpathia as a multinational region. And we have the results like quality education, decent work and economic growth, sustainable cities and communities, industry, innovation and infrastructure, clean water and sanitation, responsible consumption and production, partnership to achieve the goal. Um, some problems related to sustainable development in polyethnic border regions are weak coherence between sustainable development programs in border regions of neighboring countries, especially in environmental issues. Contradictions between domestic social policy and neighboring states' programs for humanitarian and cultural support of ethnic groups, and uneven social and economic indicators of neighboring polyethnic regions which lead to outflow of human resources to more developed regions. And conclusions. Only the incorporation of all domestic stakeholders into elaboration and realization of sustainable development strategies allows to work out an effective long-term successful development goals. And the execution of sustainable development goals in border polyethnic regions should include broad cooperation between domestic participants and partners of neighboring countries. Activation of cross-border cooperation allows to work out tasks to prevent and overcome consequences of mutual environmental problems in particular. In multinational regions, question of multi-ethnicity should be taken into consideration during elaboration and implementation of long-term strategies at all levels to meet the needs of all involved participants. Thank you for your attention.